Yeah, gotta aim for the top like, hold up. Yeah, I can never doubt myself, I know better. All of you critics be acting like you know better. Blowing the smoke, but I know when the dust settles that I'm in my element. It's evident that there's levels to the game.
What's happening, people? Welcome back to the Athletes to Athletes podcast. On today's show, I talk with former NFL player Andre Williams. We discuss his college career and how he balanced life as a student athlete, as well as his time in the NFL playing for the New York Giants and San Diego Chargers. We also talk about his post-competition career as an entrepreneur and his newly released book, After the Last Snap: When the Game Ends, Life Begins. So thank you for listening to today's episode of the Athletes to Athletes podcast. I hope you enjoy the conversation. So Andre, I really appreciate you coming on, taking some time to talk to me. So welcome to the Athletes to Athletes podcast. When I reached out to you, and I was really excited that you responded and you were like, man, yeah, let's get it done. Let's get on it. So welcome to the show. Really happy to have you.
I appreciate you, Ryan. Thank you for having me on the show. And it's a pleasure to meet another member of the Holmes family, man. Like I was telling you earlier, I'm definitely good friends with your brother Justin, and I guess that'd be your cousin, right?
Cousin Larry. Yeah.
Cousin Larry Jr. That's my big brother, man. So honestly, I appreciate you having me on.
Awesome, man. So the first question I ask everybody that I have on, and everybody has their why for why they do things, but in sports, I always ask people, what's your sports why? What's the reason that you got into sports? What's the reason that sports had such a big impact on you? So, I'm going to pose that same question to you. So what would you say, maybe as an athlete or maybe as an ex-athlete now, what was your sports why of why you did everything that you did as an athlete?
I think that for me, like that why is it's like an onion. It's got a lot of layers. I think that when I first got into sports as a kid, um, you're looking for something that's fun, so a fun way to spend your time. And it got much deeper than that because it helped me navigate early adulthood. It helped me navigate my teenage years, helped me navigate, problems that were going on within your family, all types of things like that. Sports keeps you on a track. It's in order to play, you have to have your grades going. So I kept my grades up because I definitely wanted to play because it was keeping me focused. So I think when I was a kid, it was more simple, but then especially looking back on it now, sports is it's one of the greatest platforms ever, because people, they look at athletes like everybody likes superlatives. They like the best of, the biggest of. And as an athlete, you get to fill that role, especially if you make it to the top of your game. You know what I'm saying? So for me, my superlative, I was the best running back in college football in 2013. And I got the trophy, I got the dope to prove it. You know what I'm saying? So that's in the record book. And once you achieve that, you could always stand on it. People say, "Oh, I'm fat now. I'm not an athlete." No, you're always an athlete, man. That's in you, and it's just what you choose to do on a daily basis consistently that is going to allow you to stay current. I feel like I'm a current athlete still because, before I got on here, I was working out.
Mhm. So throughout life, everyone has their goals. Everyone knows what they want to achieve. But before you have your goal of, okay, I want to make sure that I am a Division I athlete, how did you discover that you had what it took to be a Division I running back on that level?
I think that your environment kind of tells you who you are. You know in your mind, that's why you have the idea, but you don't really know because it hasn't been expressed yet. But then when you start putting that idea out there, you start going to the practice, you start playing the game and realizing you got talent. One of the first compliments that I ever got, ever from somebody that wasn't my parents was from my coach. And he said to me, he said, Dre, you got a lot of raw talent. You should keep this up because it's gonna take you somewhere one day. And that was the first year that I played football in sixth grade, playing Pee Wee football. And that's what my coach told me, and it stuck with me. And I believed it. you know. So when somebody tells you something and you believe it and you act on it, you know, then you start in a little snowball effect.
Hmm. So you were first team All-State in Pennsylvania. You were Morning Call Player of the Year. So for people that are listening to this in our hometown, the Morning Call is another one of the newspapers. So that's Player of the Year in the entire Lehigh Valley. When these accolades start coming, and obviously it feels good, but the full recognition of your talent is when the coaches start calling. Who was that first coach that sent you a letter or made that phone call? And how did you feel once you started getting recruited? Were you overwhelmed with it? Because I mean, as a teenage kid, you're like, man, this is really cool, but it's also overwhelming no matter what level you're on, where you have different people sending you letters, sending you these packages, making these phone calls. So who was that first coach that picked up the phone and started to recruit you? And what was it like when you start having a lot of these calls and these letters start to pour in?
I can't remember exactly who was the first coach I talked to. I remember there were a handful of coaches. I do remember talking to Coach Kamish from Boston College. That was the first coach that I talked to. Well, that was the coach I talked to the school I went to.
Mm-hmm.
But my first offer, I believe it came in a letter from James Madison, and then I got one from I think Vanderbilt was my first D1 offer, and then you know, I didn't feel it didn't feel overwhelming because at a certain point I told myself, look, my sister went to Cornell. She spent all my parents' money. I'm not going to get it. So if I want to go, I better play sports, you know? So that was my drive because I'm like, I could get a scholarship to play this game. I believe I can, you know? And then it's about belief. You start acting on the things that you believe on, and then the pressure is, all right, is I said I'm going to do it. Is it actually going to happen? Then you get the letters and you feel good. It's not pressure. Now you have options because this guy calls, that guy calls, and you're like, what am I going to do? Then it gets exciting, you know? And I didn't necessarily know what to do, you know what I'm saying? But there are people in place that expect that from you. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? They know that you don't know. So it's an advantage to them, but it's an advantage to you too, because they're going to help you get to where you're trying to go. They might try to direct you where they want you to go, but at least there is a system, you know, where you're going to get to where you need to be. You know what I'm saying? And it's been going on for decades now. So I wasn't really overwhelmed. I just kind of let people guide me to where I was going to go. And that's a function also of how well you can be, you know, a statesman and a diplomat. You know what I'm saying? Because people are going to appreciate you more and they're going to help you more when you are well put together, you talk well, and you're just gracious. You give of your good self, you know, and people will respond to that in kind and give their good self to you and help you where you're supposed to go, especially
Yeah.
if you're talented because that looks good for them.
Yeah. How did you narrow it down to Boston College?
Um, I really at the time I was looking and I'm like, man, it's a good school. It's a really good school. So I go somewhere and get a good degree. And then I was looking at the conference. I'm like, man, the ACC conference is pretty awesome. You know, I get to travel up and down the coast. We play great competition. And, you know, at BC, I wouldn't be too far from home, you know, because I was living in PA at the time. You know, it's driving distance. So then I took my official visit. And I honestly, I'm a person that's kind of like I move off of conviction. I kind of just, if it feels right, I just do it and I don't look back, you know. So I took my first official visit to BC and I had a great time. You know, I was staying with Montel Harris, who was the starting running back over there. Um, who did we play? Played somebody and he just went off. You know, he had he had an amazing game and I'm just watching him have fun. And I'm like, man, if I come here, like I could play early and this is gonna be me, you know. So I was just inspired off of that official visit and I just committed and then I that was my junior year, you know. So then after you commit, then you really feel good because then people stop calling, you know, because at a certain point it doesn't get overwhelming, gets annoying. I had this one coach from Pitt. Call somebody call. Sorry. I had this one coach from Pitt call me, and well, he didn't call me. He came to the school. My coach, something, when they come to the school, they pull you out of class and they make you go sit with the coach in your coach's office or whatever. And we're talking. We really talked. It had to be close to an hour. We're talking about power. We're talking about this. We're talking about the school. We're talking about all types of stuff. And at the end of it, he's just like, "Yeah, you got to come out to camp." And I'm like, "But I already got offers, and Pitt is 5 hours away. You know, like, is there some kind of incentive for me to come out to camp?" No, it was nothing. So then I kind of felt like he wasted my time, you know. And
Right.
I'm with me with offers in my pocket, I can feel like that, you know. But it might be your only one, and once you're
Yeah.
only one, then yeah, let's go out to camp and take a chance. But for me at that point, I just I kept it moving.
Yeah. So you finally get to BC, and you said you had a chance to play early, and you did. You played your freshman year. You played every single year, but as a true freshman, you were on the field.
Mhm.
But how did you make that transition to from high school football to college football? Because it's not easy at any level. It's not easy. The checks are different. The guys are bigger. They're faster, stronger. Everything is up, tenfold. How did you make the transition from high school football to college football, both on and off the field? Because it's a lot more of a demand when you're in college. You have class, you have attempting to have some sort of social life so you can at least relax a little bit and relax your mind. But then, you have your classes and lifting and your meetings and film study, and then you have multiple practices and this and nutrition. So there's so many different things. How did you make that transition and make it onto the field as a true freshman?
Well, all right. So it is heavier. It is a heavier workload for sure. But at the same time, in high school, if you make it from high school to D1 football, it's because you kind of sort of learned something. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a system that you have to fit into. It's really
Mm-hmm.
just a system that you have to fit into. All of the work that you like, the amount of books that they give you in one semester of college, you think you could really read all of those books? You can't. I didn't read all of those books. There's a lot of tricks where you they say you could read and maybe I shouldn't be telling the kids this, but this is really what I was doing at times. You read the first sentence and the last sentence of the paragraph, and you sort of kind of know what's going on. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So, in some books, this book, I got it for free because it's part of my tuition. And this book is $120. I don't have $120. So I'm gonna make sure that when the end of the semester comes, this book is gonna be exactly where I left it in this drawer because I'm gonna sell it. So I just made some money. You know what I'm saying? So the books was a extreme value, but not because what I was reading really stuck in my head. You know, there was certain classes that were super interesting. And, I got through school writing papers. I was good at writing, the test, it's 50-50, but the papers, I was writing papers and I got A's on all the papers, except for one. I got a D on one paper. But that's how I got through school. And there's what I did my freshman year, right? I said, all right, I really might make it to the league. I'm in a D1 institution. I can play well. I'm playing against good competition. Let me look to the future, right? I do want this degree. Is there a degree that I can go and pursue that's not too crazy that I could finish in a semester early? There was really only one. It was applied psychology and human development. I'm sure there's others at other schools, but at my school, that was the only one. It's an education degree. So I said, "Oh, psychology. I like psychology. Let me go ahead and do that." And um, that way, if I do end up making it to the draft, I don't have to miss that last semester of school because I already did it. You
Yeah.
know. So then the other thing I did to back that up, I said, let me go ahead and check out these core classes. let me look at the core classes. I have to get these done before I graduate. And if they're core classes, they gotta be the easiest classes you can take because everybody has to pass them. So let me take them all first. That first semester, 2 semesters, all I did was core classes because they were the easiest ones. And so my GPA was 3.7 at the end of semester or year one. You know what I'm saying? So then those next 3 years, when you're going through the turbulence and you have hard times, you got a little bit of a cushion. You know
Hmm.
what I'm saying? So I ended, it was getting chopped down every year, but I ended with a 3.1. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't do too bad. And I graduated a semester early because I was thinking ahead. I knew where I was going or where I wanted to go. And I made my short-term goals semester to semester. This is how I'm going to take care of the school. But again, you have to learn how to be a statesman. You got to learn how to be diplomatic. You know what I'm saying? And that's the same thing that they're trying to show you when you're playing ball and you have to go do these interviews and you have to talk to the media. It's showing you how to be diplomatic, how to be a statesman, how to represent yourself well. And that's what you have to do in the classroom. Because sometimes you're going to have the test and you're going to have the paper due on Friday, but you're supposed to play on Saturday. What are you going to do? You can't do everything. Something's going to have to drop till next week. So what you got to do, you got to go talk to the teacher and be like, hey, Miss Teacher, I know that the test is due Friday, but we got this big game coming up Saturday and we're traveling too. We got to go down to Blacksburg, Virginia. And like, I just want to know if there's some kind of way that we can make it do Monday or Tuesday, as soon as I get back, and make sure I get that test done for you or get that paper done for you. And I have it to you on Monday, or Tuesday. And what is she going to say? You talk to her that sweet. Of course, you got to say, yeah. So you got yourself another weekend. You go ahead, you handle your business. And when you get back, get in the books. Go
Yeah.
sit down and go do your stuff.
Yeah.
So that's how I managed.
So it's an ultimate balance thing for sure. And it sounds like you were able to maneuver as well as you did on the field. And on the field, you were rushing for over 2,000 yards in your senior year. You were going absolutely crazy. What's a game where, you know, and every athlete knows it, where everything just feels right. You're running through tackles, or you're hitting threes like Steph Curry hitting that three at the Olympics. You're just in the zone. What's a game you remember that you're like, man, it all felt good. I woke up that day, breakfast tastes a little bit better. My shoes were tied straight. The tape went on perfectly. I was looking good when I checked my unit. Like, what's a game that you always remember that everything was just in place and all them yards came?
We played against NC State, and there was like rumors. There was like rumors that all right, this guy Andre Williams, he's approaching uh 2,000 yards, and like maybe he's gonna end up in the Heisman. After the NC State game, like it was a for real thing, like it happened. And I think there was like a span of like 5 games where I rushed 4,000 yards. And I think NC State was the beginning of that, or it was somewhere in that span of 5 games. I think I had three, like it was like 343. And that day, I think their safety was hurt or something, man. So they had a replacement guy. There's somebody, I believe his last name was Stanley, and Stanley was on the he was on the kick return team. And I seen somebody, I'm looking back there, I'm on the kickoff team, and I'm looking back there, I'm like, yo, who is that with he had his jersey, he had the quarterback jersey, like it wasn't scrunched, it was just loose. I'm like, who is that over there with the quarterback jersey on? Like, that's the weak link, man. It ended up being Stanley the safety. So I don't know how many times I ran Stanley over because he's trying to come down to play run support, and it just wasn't ending well for Stanley, man. And we went off that game.
Yeah. So you mentioned it, right? Doak Walker Award in the Heisman conversation. You were first team all ACC. All those things happen, for you throughout your college career. Was it tough to stay level headed? Because when accolades are pouring in, especially the Heisman accolades, and then talking NFL draft, this is the epitome of the sport. is it hard for you to kind of stay level headed, or are you just, you know what, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. This is exactly the person that I set out to do. And all these awards are just a product of my hard work.
So if you really look at my career in college, all of the good stuff really happened at the very end.
Yeah.
The middle, the middle was we only won 4 games my sophomore year. We only won 2 games my junior year. So it was not easy. You see the good stuff, and the good stuff makes all the other stuff not matter. But yo, that was a tough 4 years. You got to stay level headed the whole way through, and you gotta believe in yourself, man, and you gotta have faith. You gotta have faith, which is the substance of things hoped for, evidence of things unseen. Yo, you gotta see it. And you're not gonna have that unless you really know who God is. For real. I was ready to leave Boston College. I was ready to leave Boston College. And because I'm like, all right, so we won 7 games first year, but we were going through head coach. I went through 3 different head coaches, 5 different offensive coordinators. It was crazy stuff going on. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't know if BC was really the right place for me. And I prayed about it. I prayed about it. And God told me something. He said, if you are who you say you are, you could do it anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You could do it here. But if you leave, you're gonna delay your future. You have to spend another year in school. That was conversation that I got from God. And I didn't want to spend another year in school. So I said, man, if I am who I say I am, I could do it here. And then we won 2 games. And then the mindset was, all right, you know what? It only takes 1 year. It only takes one play. It only takes one drop, one season. You know, it only takes one season, and this is going to be that season. And what had happened was we had a new head coach came in, Coach Dazio. Don't have too many good things to say about Coach Dazio, but our offensive coordinator was Coach Day. And Coach Day is the head coach over at Ohio State right now, killing
Yeah.
stuff. Saying so he was really the mastermind behind that offensive push that we had that year. Was Coach Day. You know what I'm saying? So um, everything came together at just the right time for us to really just explode. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sorry that, BC's doing their thing right now. They got Coach O'Brien over there, but they missed out by having Coach Day as the head coach at BC, because he would have turned it up. But you know, that was our situation at the time. Didn't all happen as soon as I got there. Really, really had to fight for it. And then that senior year, I was going through some injury things. The way I was running, man, I was tearing my shoulders up. But by the end of the season, I was hurt. You know what I'm saying? I was really hurting. But I had done everything that I needed to do to go ahead and get to the next level. But I was hurting, you know?
Yeah. So yeah, speaking of the next level, and when I had Ryan Clark on, I talked to Ryan and I said, going into the draft, what are the things that you're hearing? And he said that I was going to be undrafted. He's like, I was not one of those guys. He said, I was a role player. He said, I did my thing, but I knew I was going to be undrafted. He said he wasn't really even paying attention to the draft. For you, what were you hearing going into your draft? Because, you went in the 4th round, you went to the Giants, but what was the draft grade on the person that just won the Doak Walker Award, that year? What are you hearing from coaches, agents, draft boards, people doing all these different projections? And what were your thoughts? Like, what were you really thinking when the draft came around?
So I was projected to go in the 2nd or 3rd round after the Doak and the Heisman, all of that stuff. But remember what I said, I was hurting, so I was supposed to go to that Research Senior Bowl, and I couldn't even do it, man. I'm like, I cannot attempt to play another football game right now. I can't do it, you know. Um, And there's certain things I can say and certain things I can't say, but I'll just leave it at that. It's like by the end of that football season that I had, I couldn't play no more football for a moment. I had to chill, and then that dropping out of the Reese's Senior Bowl, that hurt me, it hurt my draft stock. And then at the combine, I didn't do the bench because I didn't want to mess with my shoulders. I wanted my shoulders to just rest, that hurt me. So I wasn't completely healthy going up to the draft. And then I believe that's why I fell into the fourth, was because I dropped out of the Reese's Senior Bowl. A lot of the coaches is over there waiting to come meet you, and then I didn't do the bench. So I ended up going in the fourth round, but I believe I felt like I was going to the right place at the time, man. Like I was going to New York. Coach Coughlin was over there. I knew that what they like to do with the football over there at the time with that regime, everything was looking pretty good. Maybe I should have ended up going to the Titans. I believe that would have been a little bit more sweet, but and I just say that from the standpoint that there are teams out there that are looking for a win right now formula with the players that they have on their squad. And then there's other teams that believe in player development. You know what I'm saying? And if you look at the work that the Titans did with Derrick Henry, what he's doing now, he wasn't like that when he came out. You know what I'm saying? But they developed him, they polished him, they grew him, and he just became the king. You know what I'm saying? But they worked for that. They worked to get that out of him. New York, I can't even say New York without just feeling, and not even for me, just because I watched them make the same mistake year and year and year again. And what they just did with Saquon, one of the generational talents of our time at running back. It's crazy, man. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
So where you end up it really matters, but what you do when you get there really matters more, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
So you had a stint in the NFL and you also played in the XFL. Before that league was suspended, before it came back as well. When you look at your professional career, was it easy or hard to walk away from football?
Well, I had a lot of things going on at the time personally. I was going through a divorce situation. I had blew out my wrist, tore up ligaments in my wrist. So it wasn't like a easy or hard decision. It's a have to decision. I
Mm-hmm.
had to put the game down, and I had to get my life back in order. Um, I was having kids and things were going on to where playing field got muddy. You know what I'm saying? So I had to walk away from the game at the time. Me, coming back into the XFL was, I guess that was my attempt to get back into the sport, but I needed a couple of years away. And we were actually I was playing down with the Roughnecks. We had PJ Walker at quarterback, and I always forget what our head coach name is. He was the old Hawaii uh, head coach for a long time, and his whole staff followed him down to Houston. He was a great coach, um, and we had an interesting offense, and we were always in 4 or 5 wide, like the whole game. So it forced the defense to play a certain way that was beneficial to me. So that was cool. But then when the pandemic broke out and shut the game down, shut everything down, I just felt like that was my sign from God. It's like, all right, man, like, yeah, you had to go ahead and get into the business that you've been building for all of these years. So that's when I just said that was it.
Yeah. So yeah, let's talk business. And one of the things that you said before, we talked business, but one of the things you said before was you were always thinking ahead. You were thinking ahead as a freshman of what classes do I need to take? How can I make sure that I get my degree before I get out of here? And it's not something I'm gonna miss if I go to the draft or anything else. With business, are you having those same sort of thoughts where you knew you wanted to get into the fitness industry, you knew you wanted to get into fashion, you knew you wanted to write a book? Were all those things set in stone for you, or at least goals at that point? Or did it kind of come to fruition after you got out of the league and you were like, okay, what are my passions? And you really had to assess it? Or did you already have those things kind of predetermined for you?
For me, it was I started all of this stuff way back when. Like this book here, I really had the idea that I was going to write a book in college. And it actually had a different name. I was calling it A King, a Queen, and a Conscience. And the thing about books is, though, is like when you write one, you can't just talk off your head. You need some kind of experience, you know? And I didn't have the experience yet. I had an idea, I had a philosophy, but I hadn't lived it out yet. And it took until last year. I wrote this in 2023, and you know, edited it and published it this year. But that it took a while to get that out. And as far as business, the fitness, no, I didn't know that I was going to get into the fitness, but it makes sense because people always ask me all the time, like, you know, like, Dre, like you're inspirational. You should coach. You should get into coaching. But just coming from the game, I know I don't want to coach because playing the game is a lot of you're in the game, you know what I'm saying? But the coaches is even more. The coaches really got to be about it. You know, that's a lot of time spent in the game that I don't have to commit right now. You know, I have my family, got my kids growing up. I want to invest in my family, in my kids, and that takes time. You know, you got to be there. And I just had too many ideas to say that I'm going to dedicate this much of my thoughts to the game of football. You know what I'm saying? Love the sport, love sports in general, but I'd rather contribute from the aspect of, you know, giving what I know to the next athlete. You know, I want to create the athletes. I don't necessarily want to direct them to do what they got to do on the field. But the way that that happened and the way that the clothing happened, it really came around at the same time. So this was like 2015. I just came off my rookie season, had a good rookie season, and now it's the off season. I'm like, man, how am I going to spend my time? Because I felt wrong. I felt guilty trying to, you know, sit down on the couch and play my PlayStation. I'm like, I'm wasting my time right now. Look where I am. I can't do this. What am I going to do that is going to build me up as a person so that I could, you know, become an expert in something or, you know, start something, you know? And I was always a tinkerer, like messing around with stuff. I liked chemistry, and I had built a fragrance lab in my townhouse. So I was making soap and candles and different things like that. And I had a marketing agent that came, and we would just talk ideas and take pictures and do videos and stuff. And he was like, I see what you're doing here. Like, I think I have somebody that you'd be interested in talking to. So he took me to his friend Eamon. His friend Eamon had a spot in WeWork in Manhattan, and we sat down. And Eamon's like, "Hey man, you're running back in the NFL. How would you like to create a signature shoe? I got this factory out in Spain where they're cranking out the Balenciaga arenas, and I got this designer from Nike, and I could extend my creative faculties to you, and you can make something. I got my own shoe line that I'm getting ready to release, and we could run together." So that sounded really cool to me. And I knew it was, you know, pay to play, but I had a little cash to pay, and I wanted to play and figure out how to take an idea and create a luxury product. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about, you know, factory in Spain that's cranking out Balenciagas. I'm like, I can make something really nice. So that was actually and I have that. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
This is the Running Man. So this was my first creative project, you know. So this is 100% rubber sole, genuine leather upper. We did the ostrich leather tongue, and it looks like a lace up, but the way we built it, it's actually a slip-on shoe. You know, this is a gusseted tongue. All right. So once I did that, Then I started meeting different people, and different doors were opened up. I ended up finding myself in these trade shows in New York, Project and Magic and all of those things, and meeting people in the industry. Didn't really know what I was doing there yet, but I started meeting a lot of different people, and then I ended up meeting like a very connected developer, and he asked me why I made the shoe. I said, well, because it was cool. And he's like, yeah, it's cool, but how you gonna sell it? And I said, well, I didn't get that far yet. I'm just making cool. And we ended up having this 3 hour conversation, and he was giving me all of this information for free that I had paid for over the course of 8 months making that shoe. So he qualified himself as somebody that could take me to the next level in terms of making product. And he also kind of, opened my eyes a little bit to like, all right, you can make cool product, but is it really needed? Does the market need it? Because if the market don't need it, you're gonna have a problem selling it.
Mhm.
And the market is flooded with shoes. Doesn't need another shoe. Doesn't matter if it's a cool shoe or if I made it. You know what I'm saying? So then I'm like, well, what does the market need? And I was up all night because I couldn't sleep because this conversation I had with this guy was exciting to me. And I said, you know what? I don't wear jeans because I rip my pants. I got running back legs,
Yeah.
and I'm tired of ripping my pants. And when I brought this idea to my developer, he's like, yeah, that's a niche that the premium market is not exploring, and you could definitely grow out of that niche. And that's where I started. I rolled big dice, and I took my signing bonus and I used it to go ahead and buy my first order of fabric to go ahead and make this. It's because when I told him, he said, it's a good idea, but don't just make any jeans. Get the best fabric you can so that you could compete with the best people in the market.
Hmm.
And then when he said it like that, it really hit my brain like, that's what I'm doing now. I'm playing football with the best of the best. And so when he said it like that, then I'm like, yeah, like I feel that competition. And so I went ahead and I started that project, and that's how I was introduced to the Japanese selvedge denim. I figured out how I could get fabric out of Japan where I can manufacture and learn all the sourcing and this, that, and the third. And then I made the jeans.
Yeah.
And so when football was over, even though I wasn't necessarily running a business, I was building brands. You know what I'm saying? I was learning what merchandising was and how to actually, find my niche in the space. And but then once you get to actual running a business, it's just about consistency, salesmanship,
Hmm.
you know. But I think that I already had started those things, and then once football was over, of course, I just kept trying to run with it, learn where I was at, make my mistakes, and keep building.
Yeah. So I wanna talk about the book a little bit because it sounds like, as you said, these were things that you were making mistakes doing, right? You're learning, and through learning is making mistakes. And it sounds like
Mhm.
the book, from the summaries and things that I've read about it, it gives those lessons to people of make sure you're setting yourself up for life when you're done being an athlete. Is that the premise of the book? Is that kind of where things came from for you?
Um, I would say that the book is it's really I wish that it was a how-to manual on how to set yourself up for life, but I'm not set up for life. That's not what it is. You know what I'm saying? This is my memoir from 0 to 30, and I think that I have an interesting story because, the football, I
Yeah.
got to go places, do things, achieve things that very few people do. I met people that very few people meet, and I spent a crap load of dumb money. You know what I'm saying? So I learned a bunch of hard lessons and didn't just spend money, but I made decisions early on that, they had consequences that if I was 40 and made those decisions, those consequences would crush me. But
Yeah.
because I was 20 something years old with a little cash in my pocket and, just a good head on my shoulders, I just was able to, resilience just got me through certain things, and I learned the lesson and I'm still good. You know what I'm saying? So definitely a lot of lessons in that book. I wrote it because when I had to write it, it was a therapeutic experience, cathartic experience for me to actually go back and see, because once that Heisman thing happened, from there, life was moving at 120 miles an hour. You know what I'm saying? And when you're 20, 21 years old, and you feel like, man, I've been making good decision after good decision after good decision. I probably can't make a wrong decision, but you do. You do. And when you drive in 110 miles an hour and you crash, yo, it's gonna be a wreck. So I didn't I won't say that my story is a tragedy, but it's definitely a drama. You know what I'm saying? It's a football story, but it's a life story. And I I loved writing that thing. It was hard, and the editing process is actually harder than the writing process, but this is just a memoir. And it is a raw, honest, and true story. So that's what I can say about it.
Yeah. Do you ever look back on your career and say, man, I wish I would have done that, or something that you always just like, man, that was really fun. Is there any sort of points of your career that you either, like I said, you either regret doing, or making a left where you should have made a right, or something that you're just like, that was an awesome game and I'll always remember that.
Um, man, I got a lot of moments like that. I remember my first 100-yard game was against the Titans, actually, down in Tennessee. We were it was a wet field. I had these cleats. I wear those. They're called Dynaclaws. So they look like golf cleats, and they kind of grab the turf really well. And I love them. But because the ground was wet and it was like a wet clay type of field, the I had to put on my long spikes. And I was like apprehensive about it in the beginning, but then I ended up having a crazy game. We followed it up the next week and went to the Rams when they were still in St. Louis and had another crazy game. And I had this one crazy run where we ran, I believe we just ran some inside zone, and it just popped just perfect. And I sprint through the line. The safety is there, just standing there, just in the wrong position for the speed and the depth that I'm at. I'm like, oh man, it's about to be bad. I think his name was might have been something McLeod, Rodney McLeod, something. It was McLeod, and I hit him bad, and I kept going, and I'm about maybe 20 yards from the touchdown. And would you believe that it was Aaron Donald that came from way back there to run me down and tackle me? So that guy is like, it was crazy. I'm like, man, I got ran down by a D lineman, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, but he was an absolute
But
freak of a D lineman. So when you look back and you're like,
oh,
man, that's as fast as I was, he must have been moving.
yeah, yeah, but that's awesome. Those are the types of folks that I was playing with, and having success too. So um I remember I remember a lot of games. I remember that time we were playing it, remember the catch Odell reached back like this?
Yep.
Man, that play almost didn't happen. That play almost didn't happen. It was a play action, and we, faked the power, and then I'm supposed to like fit into the line and just help a lineman out. And I believe it was John Jerry playing right guard, and the D tackle he was showing way too much skin on that inside. So I bumped with my shoulder, and this guy kind of rolled over John Jerry's whole side and came inside. So if Eli had not let that ball go, had it been probably like a half second later, he would have got tackled, yo. That would have been a duck in the air. And Odell would have never had that crazy catch. So I always think that, like, man, I did my job, but I almost ruined the play. So um, yeah, there's a lot of moments like that. Then there was a moment, man, where you kind of like you look back, like why did this happen? If I would have just prepared like this, then maybe the outcome would have been different. And we had this was now I'm in San Diego, and I believe was this my first year in San Diego or my second? Think it was my first year in San Diego. It was like the last play of the regular season against the Chiefs. Melvin Gordon is injured at this point, but you have teammates that are like real good teammates, and you both trying to sharpen each other.
Hmm.
I don't think I could describe Melvin as that type of teammate. We kind of like, and I get it, because me and Melvin kind of got similar backgrounds coming out of college, both Heisman caliber running backs, 2,000-yard rushers. And I had a good rookie season. His rookie season wasn't that great. He had a great career. His rookie season, he didn't start out that strong, and I came in right after that year. And I forget who the GM at the time was though, but he told me, he said, you're an exact copy of Melvin. Like when I seen you on the waiver wire, I had to pick you up. That's why you're here. So I was like, okay. So I understood, I'm like their insurance policy, but I still like, we all got to do, like, we got to win the game. It don't matter
Yeah.
how we win the game, and we both gonna get our checks anyway. You're first round pick. You know what I'm saying? So I don't look at it as a competition thing with my teammates, my brothers, but not every you don't always get that. But anyway, that week I feel like Melvin knew that he wasn't going to play because he had a knee injury, man. And I came up off the practice squad, and it was kind of like I still not getting these reps with Phillip Rivers, even though chances are I'm going to end up playing on Saturday. So
Yeah.
we weren't preparing properly as a team, and mentally it was messing with me too. And I wasn't preparing properly. You know what I'm saying? And I was also going through the situation at home. So it was like I was so happy that I was going to play this game. But then I'm like, man, like I'm still taking second team reps, and we got this game on Saturday, and they waiting on Melvin to tell them that he's not going to play. And that's what happened on, I guess it was Friday. He's like, yeah, I can't do it. And I'm like, oh man, okay. So I'm going to get the start, and this is the first handoff, this first snaps I'm going to take from Phillip is going to be in the game. All right, that's cool. Then we ended up having this. And I ran a route. I ran like a little 5-yard stop and turned around. And for some reason in my head, I'm like, yo, Phillip's not going to throw me this ball. And then Phillip threw me the ball, and this thing just smacked me in my face, yo. And I'm like, oh, God, man. It's because I just wasn't preparing properly.
Yeah.
Wasn't prepared properly. So I look back at that moment like, man, you always got to be ready. Look where you're at. You at the top of the top, like everybody's watching this game right now. You know what I'm saying? This is it. And it's always like that. But when you in there and you in there 4, 3, 4, however many years, and you get comfortable, and then you let these outside things affect what you got going on the field, you're gonna regret it later. You know? And it ain't nothing crazy. It ain't nothing crazy. Still have my career. But there's a bunch of things. Yes, if I could just have went back, and not just singular moments like that, but decisions that were made where my career could have been, of course it could have been different. Of course it could have been longer. Of course I left a lot of football on the field. But I'm happy. I figure out what happiness was playing this game. Ain't about money. It ain't about accolades. It ain't about none of that. Just as a human, for you to achieve human happiness, you need two things. You eat good food every day. If you eat good food every day, you're going to be some measure of happy. If you sleep comfortably at night every night, you're going to be some measure of happy. And if you get to do those two things with the people that you love every day, oh, that's supreme happiness right there. It's really not more complicated than that. Of course, there's other things, there's desires, there's ambitions, but happiness as a function of just humanity, it's very simple. It's not much more complicated than that, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm good. So good on the game.
That's great. That's great. And on that note, I'm going to end the conversation. I normally ask for advice, but you pulled it right out already. So I got no more questions. But before we end everything, I want you to let everybody know how can they get the book, where can they find anything that you have going on right now, websites, social media handles, anything. Floor is yours.
Yeah, so the book is available on Amazon. I also keep copies myself. So if you'd like a signed copy, you can go on my website. It's drewill.com. It's very simple. It's just Dre Will, DREWILL.com. And if you backslash book backslash, you'll get to the book page. But even if you go on the first page, you're going to see everything there. And that's like my hub. So I have, I have newsletters that I keep. I really just put this up about 3 months ago, but I have a couple newsletters. One that is just going to general subscribers, and one that is for my people in my fitness club. So I have a fitness club. I keep an online fitness club with the Telegram community, and I have in person. But it's all my fitness club, AW Fitness Club. And if you're interested, like this is my offer. Like I told you earlier, it's I'll teach you how to eat and exercise like an athlete to achieve superior fitness in 90 days. That's my offer. That's my program. And it's, we have I was inspired by, you remember Billy Blanks?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's mom was on that Tybo,
Yeah.
he's selling on Google Play to this day, so those video instructional type of workouts, that's what I do. 15 to 30 minutes. I built it for people that are like myself. They're just busy, and I can't see myself dedicating 2 hours to the gym 4 times a week, So I have a daily quest now. You do it every day, but it's 15 to 30 minutes, and it's not weightlifting, it's body weight inspired fitness. That's the one thing we didn't talk about was how I ended up extending my career through I met this guy that was a martial artist. He worked out with him 23 days, fixed my shoulder. My shoulder was falling out the socket. You know what I'm saying? Torn labrum. So just off of exercise and nutrition, the human body could do some crazy things, and that's what they call Eastern medicine, internal medicine, fixing the body through breath and movement. So that's what my practice is based off of. I got that there at Fitness Club, we got the book, and I also have my clothing is still active on that website as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Dre, honestly, like I said, I appreciate you coming on and chopping it up with me, talking about your career and the things that you've been through, as well as all the business stuff that you're into as well. It's ultimately inspiring to see, athletes go from on the field to having their own business and having their own thing and making that transition, no matter how hard or easy it really is. It's always good to see people make the transition and not be going through a lot of crazy stuff that's happening in this world right now. As I said, I appreciate it. I'm definitely going to be, putting out a lot more content with you. But yeah, man, I appreciate it. I appreciate you coming on and I enjoy the conversation.
I appreciate you too, Ryan. Thank you so much for having me, man. And I'm looking forward to going ahead and checking this out when it comes out, man, and spreading it.